Thank you so much, and welcome everyone to this very interesting conversation on disruption from within, leveraging tech as a lever. And as Debjani was mentioning yesterday, GCCs, especially in the context of India, they are growth engine and they are catalysts who could accelerate our journey towards India 2047 or Viksit Bharat, right? Having said that, in today's conversation, we will be exploring how organizations worldwide have been leveraging GCCs in order to incubate technology innovation and bring about strategic changes, respond to tectonic shifts, attain strategic priorities, and also unearth the opportunities of future. So I have a very esteemed panel today who are going to kind of help us maneuver through this whole topic with examples, with best practices, alluding to opportunities and challenges and what the future beholds in terms of technology innovation across GCCs. So let me begin with asking kind of a fundamental question to the panel, maybe starting with Anil. Now, how, in your experience, have GCCs been able to kind of prove as differentiators or key enablers in order for the organizations to achieve their strategic goals, right, through technology, innovation, and at the same time, within, their ROI goals?
Sure. First of all, good morning to everybody, and very happy to be here. In the GCCs, we have gone through a journey. We started, creating GCCs for a purpose of cost arbitrage, and that happened 15, 20 years back. Then we started moving more towards, one process globally so that you can standardize. And then after that, there was a bit of a vacuum for some time because everybody thought that was the purpose. But with the newer and newer technologies coming every year, and especially now with the Regen AI, I think this is a time when we can really pivot GCCs to become a big enabler for the organization. Now, it happens because of a couple of reasons. One is ways of working are very different in GCC. It's a very global view. Then the second is a young population, so people are a little more comfortable working with the technologies and they're more used to. And the third important thing is, in GCCs, most of the time, people don't carry any baggage of culture of 20 years, 30 years in the organization. So they are very adaptable to change. So I think GCC are now poised to lead this whole transformation, which is going to be technology-enabled. So very exciting times ahead.
Wonderful, wonderful, nice perspectives, and you're right. I think it's probably a generational shift that we are seeing right now, in terms of adoption to the new age technology, and definitely would be happy to hear your perspectives, Raphael, on this.
Well, good morning, everyone. Maybe a bit of context. We founded our GCC back in 2007, and we were 4. And in 2017, we were 600. Now we are 1,200. So we're starting to be big. But I guess, at the very beginning, this was just an offshoring center. This was based on managing tickets for supports and managing project as a V model. I'm writing specification, I'm sending them, I am getting a delivery. And as you said, I think that there have been a big shift in technology where those those way of working were not adapted to this. And I would say that cloud, not as infrastructure as a service, but really as platform as a service, when you develop application in agile, when you need to integrate complex technologies such as IoT, such as big data, such as data science, and that you need to work in close loop with the business that you are working for, then it's changing the mind. It's changing the way you are working, and it's starting to require to get new people, cloud architects, UX designer, data scientists. And this is at that time that we have started to shift from a pure delivery center based on ROI to an innovation center based on expertise. And I guess for us, the next step of this is really on manufacturing, as we are a manufacturing company. Everything that is running around digital twin to optimize our processes and so on is also a great enabler of this transformation of GCC becoming an innovation center and at the same time a delivery center.
Wonderful, and I think you very rightly alluded to, the paradigm shift in how we perceive talent, right? And what skills really are very, very important in the changing times. So Sachin, your perspectives on this.
Sure. Good morning, Bengaluru, and thank you, NASSCOM, for having us. So Nithya, the way and let me pick up from where Raphael left, the way I think about sort of GCC tech adoption is augmentation, automation, and acceleration. So if I think about, and since everybody has been talking, I think for the past day and a half about AI, let me pivot to AI. So augmentation, I think, is about improving developer experience and efficiency. And the way we think about that is it's very expensive to train large language models. And so there's QLoRa, there's instruction tuning, there is RAG model, there is knowledge graphs. But the point is, I think it's all about improving the context and improving the intent to reduce hallucinations, improve accuracy of answers that come out of AI. So that's sort of the augmentation piece. And that's across the whole life cycle, right? Whether it's writing code from user stories to writing test cases from code to documenting existing code, et cetera. I think the more interesting piece then becomes automation. And a couple of examples I can think of is, I think for all of us sat in this room, platform stability, making sure that all of our products and platforms are always available 24/7 is increasingly important. And from that sense, observability is important. But the problem is, while we have all kinds of tools, from Dynatrace to Splunk to MookSoft, et cetera, it's like finding that proverbial needle in the haystack. And there's lots of false positives. So using AI ops to give intelligence so that we can reduce alerts to situations, to incidents, that curve, I think is becoming increasingly important. And another example I can think of is agentic automation in call centers, where the AI takes call notes, which means by the time the call is done, you've done a much better job of solving a client's query. You can also run sentiment analysis on top of that to understand whether the clients are happy. And it's all virtuous sort of cycle. And the third piece of this is acceleration, which is you're really using AI/Gen AI to think about new possibilities, think about new solutions that perhaps humans cannot on their own. And so lots of examples really, but in the interest of time, I'll just talk about one, which is, and I think this is a global statement, a lot of the customers today still find that their relationships with FIs, financial institutions, so banks, is disjointed, from mortgage to deposits to loans to cards to payments to e-commerce to investment advice. And so what we're doing at Fiserv is building a 360-degree loyalty platform that gives very personalized offers, dynamic pricing, customized, tailor-made advice depending on the profile of the customer using data analytics and AI. So again, just to summarize, it's, I think, augmentation, automation, and acceleration in those perspectives.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's thank you for sharing that valuable framework, right? And as we speak about technology, I mean, I think they are not free from challenges, right? And we have seen that in the past also, right? Every technology wave comes with tremendous amount of challenges. And these challenges are more to do with people's belief in the technology capabilities, their readiness, right, and their apprehension, etc., for adoption, right? We can see this. We have seen this in the past, even when it comes to airplanes, right? Their adoption into the mainstream took many years or decades, if I may, and then we have seen it recently in terms of cloud as well. Right? So what do you think, maybe starting with Anil, right, based on your experience, have been the typical challenges that GCCs have faced in order to kind of incubate technology, not restricted to AI, we are talking about all the various types of deep technology, right? And how you have maneuvered these challenges?
Sure. I think it's a very important question because I think we all get very excited with the new technologies which are coming our way. Realistically, how much of it has been used is a big question to ask first. Like, for example, going back, 10 years back, RPA came and everybody was talking about that you can automate anything and everything. But if you look at actually industry-wide, how much of RPA we are able to do, many of the companies are still stuck with 5–10%, and they have not moved beyond that. Now we already then started doing text mining, data mining, process mining, and now we're already talking about AI and then Regen AI. I think there are use cases in all technologies, but is it being broad-based adopted? And is organization ready even to do that? I think that's a very important thing. The other important thing is the GCC is an extension of the organization. For us, for example, we are completely integrated. So what happens in Philips happens in our environment also. So is organization ready for adopting that kind of a technology? For example, we run a major part of the supply chain for Philips. In supply chain for us is for MRI, CT scans, DXR, IGT, very complex machines. It takes 8 to 9 months to produce one. And that process goes through 5 times through in our GBS when we are doing from an end-to-end supply chain perspective. So I can't just apply technology on my part and other parts are going to be still running on an older ways of working. So it has to be completely integrated. The whole organization needs to be ready. The tools needs to be end-to-end, and you can't see it in isolation. So I think that challenge remains. Are organizations getting ready versus just the GCC being ready? Otherwise, you will automate a part of it, and then rest of the process still will have a lot of wait time, because you may reduce your lead time from 15 days to 5 days, but those 10 days will become wait time because the next person is not ready to pick up the process from there. So I think that's one of the challenges that we are we preparing organizations to be ready to move to new technology or not?
Absolutely. Integration remains a key challenge. What have you observed across Saint-Gobain, Raphael?
Well, I would say that the first step is a cultural change of the management of the GCC. Because you start by, and I see Anand and Shiva who are in the room, who are our head of GCC here, and they are new to the company. And I think we've done this also because once you've built over 12, 13, 15 years, a GCC that is here as a delivery center, which goal or which objective is to become bigger and bigger and bigger, right? To centralize, to be a kind of shared service and offshore center. Then you don't so much have the condition to shift to innovation. Why? Because I think that in innovation, what matters is not the size, it's the expertise. In development, in AI, you better have the 2 Top Gun guys that will make the difference rather than 20 average people. And I think that this is where you need to have a management of the GCC that is able to kind of drive the GCC in an hybrid model, where you're still here to get to your DNA, right? Which is you are the offshoring center, delivery center. And then you start to build the foundation of being an innovation center, which means recruiting different people, most of the time with different salary base. You need to retain them. And then once you've created this, you have the condition to recruit the right person and to retain them within the organization. Now, how to retain them? I was with the GCC team yesterday, and we basically were discussing about this. And I think it's like we have a dual play. We play on the purpose of the company. The purpose of Saint-Gobain is making the world a better home. So I guess that when young generations, they are they feel that the future of our planet is important, when they are attracted by those sustainability objectives, that they are attracted by manufacturing, and they like technologies and innovation, then we have a play, because I think it's a great place to work. So to resume, I would say that the first step is management mindset change. so that you create the enabler of getting the right people. And then once you have this, it's really playing on your strengths. And our strength is super nice project and the great purpose of the company.
Wonderful, and I think quoting a cliche here that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So I think you're right that the culture across the organization and something which is percolated top down is very important, and chasing the purpose. While implementing technology is very, very important. In your case, sustainability is a very phenomenal purpose. Yes, Sachin, about your experience.
By the way, Raphael, as you were talking about culture, I think it reminded me of the French expression "lagnac," which means fire in the belly.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly important. But Nithya, I think about this as sort of a trade-off between speed and safety when it comes to any new technology, disrupting technology. So if you think about Gen AI today, the biggest issue is, so we talk about it at Fiserv, is be fearless but not reckless. And we put in a lot of guardrails before anything goes into production. So experimentation is fine, but before something goes into prod, we look at, is there client data we are exposing? Is there PII data? Is there any harmful content? Are we increasing cyber vulnerabilities? How about disclosures? Do we have bias? Do we have harmful content that we need to remove? Are we inadvertently infringing on any copyright or IP issues? But the problem is, as you start doing all of that safety, you can potentially frustrate a whole bunch of developers who have been given these new shiny tools to experiment with. And then they go, well, but you're really being a business prevention league. You're not really allowing our experiments to come to fruition. And so one of the things that we do is, and by the way, while I'm talking about this, and you guys all know this, when it comes to AI or Gen AI, you've got lots of use cases. Per use case, you've got lots of personas. In every persona, you've got lots of prompts. So by the time you unleash this on 10,000, 50,000 people in your development community, you get what we call model sprawl. So we try to control this model sprawl by developing curated Uber use cases. So for example, let's say a basic use case is a conversational chatbot. So we say as long as it's trained on our enterprise data and on our product features, i.e. the LLM is inside the firewall, and as long as you're not exposing any client data, you're good to go. So that way you're managing safety and speed, and I think that's true of whether it's AI, ML, or data and analytics, or cloud, or digital, or Gen AI. So that, I think, is the biggest challenge we're navigating.
Wonderful. I'll steal your phrase for future use, fearless without being reckless, right? So very, very nice. So just dovetailing into probably a way more positive side rather than discussing challenges, right? How do you see, Anil, in Philips, analytics or AI or all the any deep technology paving way for future, I would say, growth and progress, and how are you enabling that in terms of, say, ways of working or culture, etc.?
Yeah, so I think we are at an important interjuncture of where all the technologies meet, and this Regen AI, we are really bullish about it. And the reason for it is because we have done in the last 5-7 years of setting up the path for it, which means we started moving all our data in data lakes, for example, in either in AWS based or in Azure. And that has given one platform from where we can access the data. Then we have done a lot of automation, and for doing automation, we have done a lot of standardization of the process. Now, Regen AI is coming at the right time, because if you use it right, and if you have the right infrastructure, then it can really take you to the next level. Now, I'll give you a specific example. We have a big install base, which we call it IB, which means every time when we install an MRI machine or a CT scanner or DXR, IGT, ultrasounds, a lot of medical equipments, we do track which hospital, which place they have been installed. And there is a lot of software and the other kind of upgradation which happens from time to time. We, as a company, have been struggling over the years to manage the install base in 200+ countries, and there is a 1 million+ install base. If we are able to put all this data through our data lakes and use Regen AI, we can actually predict which one is going to be due, what kind of software is needed, what kind of customer expectations are, what is the maturity, and then almost prompt to what kind of selling which we need to do to that customer. It is a huge revenue. It's a huge opportunity from compliance perspective, because we are legally binded in most of the countries to maintain this, because if any adverse event happens, we are responsible for it with these machines. So this will really change the game, because eventually, I mean, managing 1 million plus installation is almost impossible in 200 countries. But Regen AI can help us in doing that. So technology is going to play a big role, and Regen AI is what we are most excited about. But it's also very important that as an organization, you should have set up the base for it. And it's at least take 5 to 7 years before all data is in a central data lakes so that you can leverage it.
Wonderful, and I can imagine 1 million install base, right? You know, that's a huge challenge, and I'm glad that technology is able to solve that for you. Raphael, I mean, I think even when we talk about opportunities in future, right? I'll just pick a quote from Debjani yesterday that GCCs shouldn't only look at opportunities today, but opportunities of future and be proactively ready for that. So, how Saint-Gobain is kind of affecting that?
Well, and maybe to follow up on what Anil was saying, I think that Saint-Gobain by itself has a strong presence in India with lots of manufacturing plants, and those plants, they are, as for some of them and most of them, they are the best performing in the world. So I think we have the condition here to have a great industrial footprint with a great engineer inside the plant, industrial engineer, that we can mix with a strong, IT, I would say now AI, whatever kinds of people that we have in our GCC. So we have the condition, I would say, to get to the next step in manufacturing, which is for us, I was looking at the previous intervention. Yes, for us, AI is still for the time being very much about operational efficiency, right? We are talking about generative AI. We are doing a few proof of concept, but for the time being, predictive AI, operational efficiency is at the heart of what we are doing, because it helps us reducing energy, it helps us being better in the quality of our product and so on. And therefore, when you want to run those kinds of innovation, such as digital twin, which is in fact, getting data out of your manufacturing plant, sending them to the cloud, doing machine learning, data science, and sending back the information to the plant for optimization, then, it takes time to have all the right people around the table. You need the data scientist, you need the IT, you need the plant, and you need to run tests in live. And I think this is why lots of things are happening in India today, because I think we have those two capabilities all together. We have the data scientist, we have the IT team, and we have a very strong industrial footprint with great industrial engineer. And this is when you are putting them together that you are able to run such complex projects. And yes, you could do it by having your data scientist in Europe, and then your plant in Australia, and a few other people in Spain or in the US. But then, you have a language issue. You have 1 hour to meet every day because you have the time shift. So, I mean, co-localization of those resources, which is very important in innovation, right? When you want to innovate, you need to co-localize. And I think this is why we have here, the good condition to get to this ambitious program on digital twins and improvement of manufacturing thanks to AI.
Wonderful, wonderful. Good to learn about what you're doing at Saint-Gobain in that regard. And Sachin, right, as in Fiserv, you are committed to kind of making life better for the customers and, of course, your organization itself, right? So in that regard, and how do you kind of are preparing yourself for the opportunities of future?
Sure. So if we sort of pivot to the future, and I'll talk more broadly about GCCs. I'm not sure, Anil and I were talking earlier that we can see far out to 2047. But if I say, sort of 5 to 10 years out, I feel that Indian GCCs will become global transformation centers. And the theme will be India developing for the globe. And the reason I say that is because, one, we have a fantastic digital public infrastructure, DPI, based on UPI, Brecken.io, et cetera, that's open stack and going global. That's number one. I think we have a very vibrant startup ecosystem, MSME ecosystem, the obvious demographic dividend, and the STEM and the, the tech talent that we have. But also because of that infrastructure and because India doing transactions digitally, whether it's payments or e-commerce or digital banking, I think it feels to me like there is a critical mass of talent that we were always good at adopting technology as Indian talent, but now we have a much deeper understanding of consumer behaviors when it comes to a very maturing fintech ecosystem inside of India. And therefore, I think we will be able to develop products out of India that truly resonate with clients, that drive loyalty, that take market share. So from that perspective, I think India will become global transformation centers. And I'll give you one example specific to Fiserv. So we went live a few months ago with something called as Fiserv Small Business Index on New York Stock Exchange. And it basically ingests 15 billion transactions, about a billion cards, cash, checks. We cover something like 70% of US zip codes. And we read transactions from 2 million merchants or small and medium businesses. The point of the example is that it's actually a very good tool for economic forecasting of US economy because it's not based on some survey, it's based on actual sales data coming out of point of sale. And a lot of that was conceptualized, designed, developed, tested, deployed from India. So it's a great example of a India to globe story. So I feel that in the future, the first of a kind incubation of a new capability can happen out of India, and then it can get sort of industrialized and scaled up. One final point I'll make is that I think there are three things that we are doing which are kind of interdependent or complementary to each other, which allows all of this to happen. Number one is we're investing a lot in sandbox environments, whether it's to build MVPs at the back of an ideathon or a solvathon. The second is building vibrant communities, so communities of agile practitioners, communities of SDET, full stack developers, or communities of expert engineers. And then the third piece is we have, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the GCCs in the room have something like this. We call it the Business Innovation Group, or BIG, which is our incubator for new ideas, for products, as well as new features, to market opportunities to take market share. And it has a lot of executive sponsorship with a compelling vision for business growth owned by a P&L. And so I think if we sort of combine these three, in my opinion, we can navigate to a much better future as a community of Indian GCCs.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for the insight. So now maybe a rapid fire question. So name a technology that would be the most disruptive in, say, the next 10 years.
I think no points for guessing. Gen AI.
Why so?
Like I said, right, because there has been a lot of groundwork has been done, which is centralization of data, standardization of the processes, data lakes, cloud-based infrastructure. Now, Gen AI sits on top of it. So I think Gen AI can be more and more effective if you're able to use these infrastructure more effectively. If an organization has not implemented any of these, and if the data is not there in the backbone, then it's not going to be possible. But the ones who have done or who are going to do it in the next few years, Gen AI can really solve a lot of problems.
Raphael?
Well, maybe a disclaimer, right? I'm not saying that I'm cautioning what I will say or whatever, but in terms of technology, I'm impressed by what Elon Musk is doing with Neuralink. Like, chipset in the brain. I guess it could be frightening, obviously, but for people who are handicapped, being able to recover the usage of some of your piece of your body, sometimes being able to see when you were blind before, I feel it really fantastic for people that have handicap. So I guess if it works, it will change the world. Now it's as whatever we do with technology, right? It could be from robots to AI to whatever. It depends if you use it for bad usage or good usage. But I put a bet on Neuralink.
Yes, Sachin.
I think, Nithya, we're going to go faster and we're going to go smaller. By faster, I mean much faster compute with exascale computing or with much faster data streaming with 6G and beyond. And by smaller, what I mean is, and I think Stanton from ISG just previously talked about small language models. So we are anyway going from LLMs to SLMs. I guess in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll go from small language models to micro language models or micro action models, which will then be embedded in edge devices. So think about it as wearables or intelligent devices or appliances. And in that sense, AI will be everywhere.
Sure, thank you so much. Wonderful to have three of you on the stage and sharing your perspectives on this topic. And thank you, audience. Just to summarize, GCCs are here to stay. GCCs are the unlock to the future potential. And of course, as Sachin mentioned, right, what was that? Be fearless and not be reckless. Thank you so much.
Sure.
For more content on tech and leadership, subscribe to NASSCOM YouTube channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.